What's going on, everyone, and welcome to Movie Emporium's movie review of The 800. This film, of course, is directed by Guan. Before we begin, please hit that subscribe button to join Movie Emporium, hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. Hey, if you like this video, cool, hit that like button, as well as commenting below on any video that you watch, including this one. So, it's pretty well known that the Japanese armies and Chinese armies have been battling for centuries. They just do not like each other. They're always trying to claim land from each other. And it's one of those things that people have rivalries against each other. It's just the way things work in this world. You know, you look at stuff over in the Middle East, it's the same type of scenario. So this story, the 800, tells the story of the Second Sino-Japanese War, and it tells about the Battle of Shanghai. And so the Chinese soldiers, which this movie is technically about, are basically pushed back and are kind of at ends. There are about 800 left of them, and they end up in this building, which is very well known, very famous in Shanghai, which is the Sihang Warehouse, which is right off the Suzhou Creek. And the story is basically about these 400 to 800 people having to survive a Japanese onslaught, and the bravery and heroism that these Chinese soldiers went through to basically protect their land. And it's a very typical, very situational story that you've seen a billion times before. And somehow you just kind of, each time a movie like this comes out, you are very interested because unlike, World War II with like the Normandy battles or the Pacific battles and stuff like that, these are the types of stories that you don't hear about very often. I've never heard about this battle before. I didn't know anything about this war. I didn't know anything about this warehouse. I didn't know anything about it. So I'm going in blind, and I'll be frankly honest with you. This movie, if it's anything like the battle that was portrayed, is horrifying and just shows you the level of commitment and the level of sadness that war will do to a nation. The idea of war is hell is a very potent thing, especially in movies like this or Saving Private Ryan or something of that nature. So a movie like this, the way it's presented, really gets the feel of authenticity, and therefore this movie is incredible. This movie is as real and as like horrifying, like I said, and as audacious and as sad and depressing, but there's a level of heroism here. There's a level of fortitude. There's a level of just situational systems that come up that make you truly feel for these Chinese soldiers. I mean, like I said, there's only like 400 to 800 of them, so it's like 300 in a lot of way, or we were soldiers, where you really feel that the odds are stacked against them. But the things they do in this movie really shows you that even a small amount of people can truly become legends in their own right, just for the simple fact that it doesn't matter if they die, doesn't matter if they live, as long as they were willing to protect their country, as long as they were willing to go for whatever they needed to do to become a martyr of their own country. It really does show that it doesn't matter who you are, you can portray real, true heroism in any situation. And that's what happens in this movie. There are characters in this movie, and there's a lot of characters like back and forth between, the Chinese soldiers in this warehouse to the Japanese soldiers, which there's actually some development with the Japanese soldiers, to the people across the Suzhou Creek who are, this is what's interesting about this movie. There is actually a thriving community of the other side of the Suzhou Creek of Shanghai, where it's a nightlife, it's a bunch of people just living out their days, but they're having to watch the horrors and atrocities that are happening across the river. So we're getting perspectives from the higher ups, the people, down below on the middle ground, and they are seeing what's happening and the level of heroism that comes out of that. The young people and the older people inside the warehouse are watching these people across the way. And you start to really feel kind of a sadness. Yes, this movie is very nationalistic when it comes to the Chinese culture, when it comes to representing Chinese, ability in war, because, Japanese side too had very naturalistic and nationalistic type society that were dealing with the same type of scenarios. Look at Letters from Iwo Jima, you get what I'm going with. So you're seeing all three sides of the story, and then you're seeing things play out when the war and the battles take place. And there are things in this movie that will be etched in your brain, that will be burned in your mind for a long time. There are situations in this movie which are so devastating and horrifying and just like harrowing and stuff like that, that you actually start to gain tears in your eyes. You feel so bad for these people, and you realize that war is not a thing that solves everything. It's a thing that causes issues and problems. It pits people between one another, and it doesn't do good for anybody, but it's like a necessary evil to contain the situations at hand. And the really fascinating thing about this culture, the Chinese army, is they were trained by the German SS. You see an SS flag in this movie, so that's a really kind of interesting look into a culture that was kind of trained by a true evil of people, but because this is 1932, you don't really know about that yet. But when it comes to war films, the violence is there. It is as deep and disturbing and dark as you expect it to be. It shows you a different side of war that you don't truly ever see because it's always bombastic. But when the action's there, you are riveted, you are ingrained and incensed, and all your senses are like hyperactive. And just to watch these characters and how heroic they truly were, to see people that, you know, were cowards truly stand up to the true necessary evil to protect their own country. The movie is one of my favorite movies of the year. It really is. This is a movie that truly stands on its own for the simple fact of what Guan was doing as a participant, trying to tell a story about these survivors and the people that were in charge of the Chinese portion of this group, this Chinese army. And you, like I said, you really feel a sense of it. You really feel the horrifying nature of it. And it sits on its own as one of the great war films of the last decade. This is going to be one of my favorite movies of the year, probably top 10. Don't know where it's going to land because it's 2020 with the whole pandemic. But as of right now, this film, 100% recommend. It'll be on streaming services probably in the next couple months. I would rent it. It's worth, you know, the $7 or the 15, $20, whatever they charge for it. And it's for 2 hours and 20 minutes. You're riveted for every second, and you really feel for each and every single one of these characters and the plight and how they respond, because it's true, it's authentic, and it really feels like they took absolute care in trying to tell these character stories. And also, like I said, it gives you a new perspective on the way war works and the way war is presented. So, yeah, it's fantastic. It really is. So, 800, highest recommendation I can give a film for this year so far. So, it's one of those films that, like, I just kind of went in blind, and I was truly riveted by it. So, but that's it. That's my take on the 800. Yeah, there you go. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this movie. If you have watched it or do decide to watch it. Like I said, in China, it's done like $100 and some million, so it's a pretty big hit right now. But yeah, there you go. Thank you so much for watching. But yeah, if you like this channel, cool, hit that subscribe button for Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find out what's coming next. And as always, if you like this video, cool, hit the like button as well as dislike it. Hey, it is what it is. But otherwise, I will see you guys on the next video. Peace out.